Top 5 UFC Upsets. Since the inception of the UFC in the early 90s, the organization has witnessed a raft of mind-blowing upsets. From Holly Holm's stunning head kick against Ronda Rousey, to Michael Bisping defying all odds to knock out Luke Rockhold, and then Nate Diaz choking out Conor McGregor in a pool of his blood. The organization is certainly not new to witnessing huge underdog outcomes. Hello and welcome to today's video, where we'll be looking at some of the biggest fighting upsets to have ever graced a UFC octagon. So without much further ado, let's get this party started. Namajunas versus Joanna Jedrzejczyk, UFC 223. Kicking off our list in the 5th spot is the bout between Thug Rose and the Boogie Woman Joanna. The only reason this isn't higher on our list is probably because the fight itself wasn't as big as some of the others, but as an upset, it certainly deserves to be right up there. Namajunas was clearly a talented fighter when the bout took place, but she was largely untested and inconsistent. She had a record of 6 wins and 3 losses, and was openly going through mental health struggles. Stack this against her opponent, the Boogie Woman Joanna Jedrzejczyk, who had won 14 fights at the time, hadn't lost any, and had defended her belt 5 times. The odds were clearly against Thug Rose. But as fate would have it, Rose would catch her with a perfectly timed left hook in the first round to shut Joanna's lights out. In many ways, this was a coming out party for Namajunas as a potential UFC great, but it also signals a downturn in the fortunes for Joanna. Ronda Rousey versus Holly Holm, UFC 193. Before her venture into the WWE, Ronda Rousey was a total phenom during her reign as champion in the UFC. Making her debut in 2011, she won 12 fights without conceding a defeat within 4 years. And it wasn't just winning that was the impressive part, but it was how she won. There was a certain air of dominance around her that led martial arts experts like Joe Rogan to suggest that she could contest with and beat a lot of male MMA fighters at that time. So when UFC 193 came by, with Holly Holm scheduled as her opponent, normalcy was expected. Holm was an accomplished kickboxer with an undefeated professional record at the time that this fight took place. But it was almost a given that she would lose to the champion. So fight night came, and Ronda Rousey, to the surprise of many, chose to strike with Holly Holm. Her decision to do so proved to be ill-advised, as in the second round, Holm landed a perfectly placed high kick to the head of Ronda that sent her and the entire MMA world into shock before finishing her with punches. This defeat still resonates with a lot of MMA fans as the fight that finally exposed Ronda Rousey. Julianna Pena versus Amanda Nunes, UFC 269. The GOAT list of mixed martial arts has been subject to a lot of controversy and argument since the sport became recognized. But one name that is always ever present is the lioness Amanda Nunes. Her resume includes wins over the likes of Valentina Shevchenko, Cris Cyborg, Ronda Rousey, and a host of elite fighters. So when her fight against Julianna Pena was formally announced, a victory for the lioness was expected to be a formality. But it's not just a victory that was expected. Many fans were expecting a total beatdown by the champion. She was the superior striker, a more powerful athlete, and she had enough grappling to stand with Julianna. And with all due respect to Julianna, she wasn't on Amanda's level, or so we thought. Then came the first round of the fight, and all our predictions were seemingly correct. Amanda came guns blazing and knocked Julianna down before spending the entirety of the round dominating her on the ground. It seemed only a matter of time before she eventually got her routine victory. But as the second round started, we began to witness something special. For almost the first time ever, we saw a fighter go toe-to-toe with Amanda without backing down. It was a sort of moment that humanized a female MMA GOAT right before our eyes. We saw her hurt and fatigued in a way that we hadn't seen before, and in a manner that almost mirrored the Conor vs. Diaz fight. The champion ended up in an unfavorable position with Pena on her back and got submitted. It was truly the ultimate underdog moment. On a side note, if you're enjoying our videos so far, be sure to click the like button and subscribe to stay up to date with our bombastic uploads. Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz, UFC 196. Gas your mind back to 2015 when McGregor was still chasing featherweight glory, Love him or hate him, you can't deny that there was a certain air of invincibility around him that had never been seen in the sport before. He burst onto the scene as no one had ever done in the sport. He was young, brash, as skillful in the octagon as he was with the microphone, and it seemed that whoever he touched with his left hand went straight to sleep. All-time UFC greats like Dustin Poirier and Jose Aldo Jr. were among the raft of fighters that succumbed to what many people described as the touch of death. And when his fight with Nate Diaz was finally booked after much controversy at the time, it seemed inevitable that Diaz would face the same fate as fighters before him. Now make no mistake about it, Diaz had always been a warrior with a penchant for the spectacular. He had beaten the likes of Gary Maynard, Donald Cerrone, and Michael Johnson. But with a record of 18 wins and 10 losses heading into their bout, many fans wrote the Stockton native off, and judging by how the fight started, they were right to do so. The bout started in a very expected fashion, with Conor coming out with wild kicks and stunning Diaz on multiple occasions with his left hand. But there was something different between this and Conor's previous fights, and that was the reality that Nate wouldn't go to sleep. And as round 2 came around, you could feel the tide slowly shifting as Conor began to fatigue and get increasingly hurt by Nate. This saw him attempt an ill-advised takedown against the Jiu-Jitsu black belt holder in Nate, who then reversed the situation and submitted Conor with a rear naked choke. At the time, this was the biggest upset the UFC had ever seen. Number 1. Kamaru Usman vs. Leon Edwards, UFC 278. To top off our list of the UFC's biggest upsets is the most recent UFC bout between Leon and the welterweight great Kamaru Usman. Leon Edwards is one of the most skilled fighters in the whole of combat sports. He is a decorated striker with an extremely solid wrestling background. But if you had told anyone that he would have a chance of beating Kamaru Usman, let alone even knocking him out, you would probably have been labeled a casual. Make no mistake about it, this upset was as huge and dramatic as any in the UFC's history, especially when you consider how dominant Usman has been since he has been champion. From a passive grappler in his earlier fights to a now more all-around aggressive striker, Usman was on the verge of greatness. A win against Edwards would have seen him surpass Anderson Silva and become the fighter with the most consecutive wins in the sport. And the odds were highly in favor of him accomplishing such a feat. What even makes this fight more dramatic was that going into the last minute of the fight, Usman was clearly dominating. The fight had gone according to script, and it seemed inevitable that he would retain his championship. But as we have learned time and time again in the sport, you can't count anyone out until the final second. To the surprise of the entire MMA world, Leon baited Kamaru with a right jab and saw him lean to his right, before landing a perfectly timed head kick to shut his lights out immediately. It's the sort of moment that will live forever in the minds of anyone that witnessed the fight. So this brings an end to our video, the top 5 biggest UFC upsets. We know how controversial lists like this can be, so feel free to use the comment section to name your picks of the greatest UFC upsets.